Hey everybody, this is the Apple reseller here. I'm back with another video. Today I want to do a video on whether the iPhone 2G is still usable or not in 2017. Now I just want to say that the iPhone 2G is the same as the iPhone first generation, so this is the iPhone first generation if you call it that, or the iPhone 2G. They're the same thing. So let's start off with a little background on this iPhone. This iPhone is the very first iPhone that came out back in June of 2007. So this phone is a little bit over 10 years old now. It only has 128 megabytes of RAM and it has like a 400 megahertz processor. So this phone is pretty outdated, and let's talk about the design. So this design is kind of unique because Apple only uses design for the first generation iPhone, because they switched this to a plastic back on the iPhone 3G, and this iPhone has like a aluminum and plastic design on the back, so it's aluminum on the top and plastic on the bottom, and it's a pretty good design in my opinion. I think it looks good. I actually like this design better than the iPhone 3G design because the plastic feels kind of cheap, and it's notorious for like getting cracks on the bottom here on the iPhone 3G and 3GS. And on this iPhone it's actually pretty similar in terms of what buttons you get. So on the front you just have a ear speaker and a proximity sensor. On the bottom you get a home button, and then on the top you get your power button, a SIM tray, and an earphone jack, which you don't get on the iPhone 7 or iPhone 8 or the iPhone X. So you get that, but it's recessed. So as you can see, you can only fit like Apple earphone in here. So if you got any earphone with like a big plug, it doesn't work. And on the bottom of the phone, you get a speaker, 30-pin dock, and a microphone. And then on the left side, you get mute switch and volume button, volume up, volume down. On the other side, there's nothing here. On the back, you just get a 2 megapixel camera, which is pretty bad by today's standard, but it was okay back then, and you don't get video recording. So now let's turn on the phone and see how usable it is today. So how I'm going to do this is I'm just going to go through all the stock apps and how usable they are. So let's start off with the message app. The message app still works. If you put phone service on this thing, you can still text people. Although you can only do regular texting, you can't do iMessage because that requires iOS 5, and this thing only runs iOS 3 at most. So you can do texting, but no iMessage. And calendar still works. You can still open it up and view the calendar and add events and stuff. Although you don't get the new features in newer iOS, you can still view the calendar. That still works fine. And photo, pretty simple. You can still view photos that you sync from iTunes, or the ones you take with the camera, or any screenshots. So photo still works fine, but again, you don't get newer features in newer iOS. And camera still works, although it's a 2 megapixel camera, and as you can see, if like there's no lighting, with poor lighting the frame drops pretty bad. Although if you get decent lighting, the frame is pretty good, but the focus on this camera is still pretty bad. So, but at least you get a camera. And YouTube app, the YouTube app still launches, but it doesn't work anymore, so you can't play any more videos. This YouTube app is pretty much, it just doesn't work anymore. Now the stock app, the stock app still works. However, nobody uses this for stock anyways, and if people are going to do stock on their iPhone, they're going to download a different app, and that requires a newer iOS, and app support on this thing is pretty bad. Now let's look at Google Map. Now this thing still has the old Google Map, and it's actually pretty smooth and not too slow. As you can see here, it loads up pretty fast. And Google Map have always been pretty reliable with older version of iOS. And Apple Map was kind of a mess when it came out. However, Apple Map is a lot better today. but the Google map is still classic and it's still like fun to look at. Now let's look at the weather app. The weather app, it still works fine. However, it's a very old weather app that doesn't really give you much information. It's pretty basic. As you can see, you don't get any of the information that you get with the newer iOS. Now let's look at voice memo. Pretty simple. You can still record voice with this thing. That still works fine. And notes, pretty simple as well. You could still take notes on this thing. So that's pretty much the notes app. And clock still works. You could still use a world clock, set different time zone in different place, alarm, stopwatch, timer. Pretty simple too. And calculator, not much to say, just a regular calculator. And you get setting, which you use to set up stuff, so pretty simple. Now, even though this device has an iTunes store and it still launches, it does not load, because if you try to load it, it will just crash. As you can see here, I'm trying to load iTunes and it's going to crash. Or as you can see there, iTunes crashed. I thought it was going to load there this time, but unfortunately it doesn't load anymore. But yeah, iTunes store doesn't work, but the App Store still launches, as you can see here. Yeah, these devices are really slow compared to our new device, where we just like take for granted that everything is fast, but back in the days devices were pretty slow. And as you can see here, the App Store still loads up, as you can see there. However, not many apps are supported on iOS 3 because we're on iOS 11 now, and all the apps that are supported, you have to get older version, and a lot of the apps just don't work on this thing. So even though you could get some apps on this thing, it's really not good for apps because of how limited it is and how old they are. So this thing wouldn't be good for third-party apps. Phone apps, pretty simple. You can still call people, and that works. Phone app, pretty simple right there. Mail app, now it does launches, however, it won't let you set up any email because of security reason. It's not secure anymore, so they won't let you do that. And let's talk about Safari. Now Safari still works on this device, however, it's really slow. So if we try to load a website, let's just try to do YouTube. Another thing I want to say is that this device still does have cellular connectivity over Edge. However, AT&T shut down their Edge network, which is the 2G network, earlier this year, so you cannot get cellular data with AT&T anymore. But if you use like T-Mobile or something else, then you can still get data. So as you can see there, it wouldn't even load YouTube. So that kind of shows you how old this web browser is. And the iPod app, the iPod app still works fine. You can still load up music and listen to music, which is pretty simple. And you get the album flow too, which you don't get with the newer iOS. So this is kind of like a classics thing. And next we have contact. Pretty simple. You can add your contacts. Not much to say there. So as you can see, this phone does show its age. It's not very usable anymore to use as a daily phone. However, this phone is actually very worth it if you want to collect them because they are somewhat rare. And if you can get one for cheap in good condition, like this one, it's in good condition and I got it for cheap. It's worth it to collect it because they will go up in value over time. However, if you find one that's cheap but it's like beat up, has cracked screen or dead pixel, then they're not going to be collectible, but you could buy one of those just for fun, like just to play around with. Now, I would say that these iPhone first generation are good for music. However, there are two issues with that. One is if you have one of these phones in good condition and you're going to collect them, and if you're going to use them daily, you're going to put like damage onto it, so scratches and stuff. And these aren't going to be very collectible if you damage them, so that's not going to be good. Or even if you have like a beat up iPhone 2G that isn't going to be collectible anyways, it's still not that good for music, just because like as you can see here, the headphone jack is recessed. They're only going to work with like the Apple earphone or earphone that are like very thin on the jack, so that's why these aren't very good for music. If you want like something that's really good for music, you're better off getting like a iPod Touch first generation. As you can see here, now it's because this thing actually has a better DAC than the iPhone 2G, and this actually has like a non-recessed headphone jack, so you can use any earphone you want with the iPod Touch first generation, but the iPhone 2G you can't. So that's gonna be the end of this video. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoy it, and if you do enjoy my content, go ahead and subscribe to me. I would really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys next time.